Hi, welcome to the Ellis Talker Show. I'm DV LeBron. Do you have any construction needs? Maybe you want to build a pergola. Maybe you just want to go ahead and redo your kitchen, or maybe your roof's acting up. K&H Construction is a local company. Chris Helm out of Waxahachie. He can help you out. No job too big, too small. So today, my very special guest is Midlothian City Council candidate for Place 4, Ms. Valencia Daniels. How you doing, ma'am?
I am living my best life, DV. How are you doing?
I'm good. Thank you so much for coming on this program. I do appreciate it. I love when people want to serve their community, so I want to thank you for wanting to do that.
And thank you also for allowing me to be on the show.
So, there people want to know about you. I want you to go ahead and give a brief bio before we go into all the good stuff.
Absolutely. So, as my name is Valencia Daniels, and I'm running for City Council, Place 4 here in the city of Midlothian. Educationally, I do have my bachelor's degree in criminal justice from Liberty University. Professionally speaking, I work for one of the largest banks in the world. My role there is vice president of syndicated lending. Basically, what happens is that when any corporation around the world gets ready to take out a loan, usually those loans are too big for one bank to fund. So they syndicate the deal out between multiple banks. My group is responsible for all of those loans that take place on a global basis. We also collaborate with all of our partners worldwide, that of LATAM, which is known as Latin America, APAC for Pacific, and EMEA for European, Middle East, and the African markets. And I also deal in US as well. I had about approximately 30 people that reported to me, but thank God they hired some more people. So now I'm down to about 10. From a volunteer perspective, I have volunteered with several organizations, not just here. I volunteered for St. Anne's Girls Home, which was a girls' home specialized with foster care individuals, those young ladies who get pregnant while they're in the foster care system. Oftentimes, they cannot stay within that system, and they matriculate them to St. Anne's so that they can basically grow up very fast. I volunteer for the MILE program here at Midlothian, as well as the Academy 4 program over in Grand Prairie. Usually on Fridays, you could catch me at the senior center where I go hang out with them because they taught me how to play hand and foot and canasta. So that is a little bit about me. On a personal basis, I have 2 adult children, 5 grandchildren. I do have roots here in Texas. My roots are steeped here in Texas. My grandmother and her 16 siblings were born in East Texas in the area of Jonesville, Marshall, and Elysian Fields. But because of some of the stuff that took place during their lifespan back in the 20s, 30s, and 40s, half of them decided to migrate to California. And that's how come I was born in California. Unfortunately, I didn't choose to be born there. I did come to Texas every 6 months until my job finally relocated me. I'm here. Unlike a lot of people who currently are on the city council and some of the newer comers that are there, I'm not a third or fourth generation Midlothian. I moved to Midlothian because I absolutely love this city. When I was looking to purchase my home, this is the city that I felt was embracing, that invited me, and where the people were very warm and welcoming. So for that reason, because I love this city, I said, let me go ahead and run for city council to make an impact in my community, which I live in.
What specifically are you passionate about that brings you? Because running again, going from looking at the city to deciding to run, what brought that about? What really shifted you into that?
What shifted me into that is the people. I love the fact that the people are caring in this community. The people are very friendly within this community. And because I've always been involved in community, as I stated before, I've worked in various capacities in my home state of California, as well as here in Texas now. I said, you know what? I need to be more involved in community efforts. One of the things that I noticed was with being involved in community efforts is being the voice of the people and for the people. Sometimes a lot of people tend to not get involved in community efforts. And what I mean by that is simply just going to a city council meeting, asking questions. If you don't understand something, ask the appropriate questions. So just the mere fact that I love people and I love community, I said, you know what, the best way for me to give back is to become an active participant in the community with the people.
Core principles that affect the way you vote. So I want to talk to you about like transparency. How important is transparency to you? And how would you keep the residents informed about what's going on in the city?
Very important. I think transparency is important, not only in government, but just in life itself. One of the things that I would do to help keep citizens informed, because what I realize is that many of them are not going to go to a city council meeting. So, what does that mean? You have to have boots on ground and be actively engaged within the community and connect with those who may not and otherwise ever come to a city council meeting. Sometimes that means you have to go to them, explain what's going on in the city. Come go to some of the homeowners association meetings. Let them know, hey, I'm a member of city council. Just wanted to drop into your HOA meeting. Things like that are things I think that are vital to the community. Of course, if somebody doesn't come to you, then the next best thing is you go to them and find out what's going on.
Valencia, talk to me about your core values. How will they guide you in your decisions if you were elected to be a city council?
Good question. I'll be honest with you, DB. I am a Christian, and some people use the word Christian loosely. I believe in the word of God. Those are where my core values, where my morals stem from. If it does not align with the word of God, I cannot align with it.
Going into kind of the stuff that you'll be facing, if you are elected, you're coming in at a time when there's a lot of change going on in Midlothian. And one of the questions that I will ask you is, how do you get all the voices involved in government? How will you do that to encourage all voices in this city to be part of governance?
Sometimes people don't want to be involved. So those that don't want to be involved, it's perfectly okay. But to those that do want to be involved, my goal to try to bridge the gap that may be there is to go out and just solicit and ask people, hey, we need your voice. We need your opinions. We need that from the community. The best way is boots on ground. You have to be out there engaging with people. Sometimes people don't even know how to become engaged. But sometimes you have to go out and educate people on how they can become involved in certain political matters. And this is one of them. You absolutely have to have people come out and tell them how their voice matters, how they can make a difference in community.
Midlothian is exploding. It's growing. There's a lot of growth going on. Talk to me. If you were elected city council, what would be your approach, your values when approaching stuff that growth, when it gets in front of you? How will you approach growth in the city?
Very gingerly, because I understand that there are some people that don't want to see Midlothian grow. And then there's another group of people that would like to see the growth happen. So you would have to address both sides of the fence. As a city, one of the things we do have to do in order to maintain everything that's going on within the city and keep people interested is you have to have some type of growth, but you would have to manage that growth responsibly. You don't want it exploding too fast, but then on the flip side, you also don't want it to not grow. You want to manage that growth responsibly. And to those that want to see it grow overnight, hey, wait a minute, we can't grow overnight. We also have to manage growth from a perspective that it's conducive to all those that are involved.
A lot of people are concerned with the infrastructure and how our local infrastructure can handle all this growth. How will you approach infrastructure and learning more about it and the things that you envision when it comes to dealing with that?
Absolutely. And that would go back with the correct departments who are over infrastructure, meeting with the code, the zoning departments, different people like that who have an impact on the infrastructure within the community, speaking with them. And again, it goes back to that whole collaboration thing. In my intro, I mentioned that I have to reach out across lines vertically within my current role. And that's one of the things that I'm very good at is reaching out across the lines and talking to people and engaging people, find out what best meets the needs of our city.
How important to you is accountability? Because you're going to be dealing with the staff of Midlothian, who they're great. They're doing big things. They're doing jobs. But you also you're the representative for the people to the government. So how will you approach accountability?
Oh, accountability is important in everyday life. That is something that we cannot escape. Whether you work on a regular job or you're self-employed, you're accountable to somebody. So, as far as the areas of accountability are concerned, that's something that you have to address. I don't care who it is. That's just a part of life. Accountability has to be addressed with every single person. Accountability and making sure that first we as leaders are accountable to the actions that we take that are going to impact the citizens of the community. So accountability starts up top and it funnels down.
Yeah. Property taxes are affecting people in this county. A lot of people are complaining And matter of fact, a lot of people just got their bill and everybody's trying to challenge it. It's really affecting folks. And even though the city is just one portion of the tax bill, it is part of it. So, in order to find out where your principles lies, I want to ask you, what are your thoughts on taxes in general, and how will you approach it every year when setting the tax rate?
Another good question. As we know, taxes are split between three entities. There's the county, the city, and then the schools. Of course, the county property taxes is something that we can't do anything about. Everybody else, I'm one of those that just got hit with the tax bill. One of the things that I would want to make sure is that the city is appropriately funded, and we could look for ways in which we can cut the property taxes for the citizens of the community.
And it's it's just such a big issue facing just Texas in general, and there's a lot of stuff going on with the state. The other thing is when you're approaching budgets every year. Matter of fact, we're getting ready. The cities are getting ready to go on the budget. The schools are already knee deep in the budget, but there's a lot of issues that are coming up on the budget. I wanted to ask you every year when you deal with the budget, how will you go through it? Will you be looking for ways to cut costs? How will you approach a budget every year?
But I would also look for ways where we can improve on maybe some of our spending habits. That's one of the things that I would look at. Are there ways that we can improve on those spending habits to ensure that we don't have to overspend in certain areas? And I would join hands with the city manager to make sure that we are effectively appropriating funds in the correct manner.
Yeah. Now, staff is very important to how the city runs. What can the staff of the city expect from you if you are elected?
Fairness, fairness and accountability. Yes.
Public safety is probably one of the biggest parts of the budget, but I want your thoughts on public safety in general. How would you envision public safety in Midlothian?
Absolutely. I'm very big on public safety. We need our police officers, we need our firefighters, we need our first responders. And one of the things about Midlothian, as we all know, is Midlothian is really spread out. So as it relates to first responders and firefighters, we want to make sure that they are appropriately placed so that if somebody needs them immediately, they can get to them when need be, as opposed to them coming from one side of town over to the other. Also, with the city growing like it is, we want to make sure that we have the adequate number of police officers staffed within our city to meet the needs of the citizens. We don't want someone to feel as though they're left out, or if something happens in their neighborhood, a crime, God forbid, should happen, that the police can't respond in a timely manner. So we want to make sure that our public safety officials are adequately sponsored and that we have enough to meet the needs of our city.
One of the things that people may be concerned with is the amount of debt that maybe the city is carrying. Well, I don't know that number off the top of my head. What is your general approach to the city and debt?
Off the top of my head, to be honest with you and to be fully transparent, I know some debt is okay to carry within a city, but we also want to make sure that we have enough in our reserve account to ensure that if that debt ever needs to be paid off, that we can pay it off. That's one of the things that we would need to look at to make sure that our reserve account is adequately funded.
Okay. The other function of the city is making sure they bring in the right business and that business flourishes, because you don't want it to be just a bedroom community where it's just all houses. It helps with the tax base when you have more commercial. Now, this is your wheelhouse business. So, talk to me about some of the things that you like to see, you envision promoting to bring the right kind of business to Midlothian.
I totally on that. The right kind of businesses, we would then again have to listen to the needs of the people. What businesses are they looking for? What businesses do we see that maybe Waxahachie has, or even Cedar Hill, which is on the other side of us, that maybe we don't have, that's going to want to bring other people from outside of Midlothian into Midlothian, which would cause them to shop in Midlothian, thus generating more revenue for us. So, one of the things that I stated when we had the forum the other night with the chamber was that we need to ensure that our businesses are diversified. And I know some people heard me say the word D, and I want to make sure that this is clear. Diversified is the word that I'm using here. It's just like your portfolio. You want your stocks and things diversified because you don't want all of your eggs in one basket. We want to be able for people to say, hey, I have to go to Midlothian to get these goods and services. I can't go anywhere else. Another thing that we should look at is possibly modernizing our zoning regulations, how that's impacting some of the businesses on our local street, Main Street, for instance, for those smaller business owners that want to come into the business. I think one of the things that we need to consider there are the forms that they're filling out. Are the forms easy to read? Or do you have to go hire an attorney to be able to read those forms? I know one of the things that I looked at was Navarro College. They have a program that helps educate new business owners that want to come into certain areas. And I don't know if a lot of our constituents who want to open businesses are aware of that. But that's another thing that we need to educate our citizens on as far as resources that are there to help them simplify the forms, make the process a little bit easier, especially to those businesses who we would classify as low risk businesses. We want to make sure that they get in here, but we also want to make sure that we have diversified businesses and where they're going to be located, strategically locate those businesses throughout the city.
Do you support abatements being given to these companies so they could come, or do you just think we have an attractive market for them to come anyway?
That's a tricky question, DV. I would say in the grand scheme of things, I understand why abatements are there, they're needed. But if we're giving a company a 25-year abatement, does the city benefit off of that immediately? The city doesn't benefit off of it until maybe 25 years later. So I would say we would have to look at those abatements and come up with a strategic plan where both we as a city win as well as the companies win.
Now, what are your thoughts on the new, like they're looking at building a new park in downtown? And as a city, they also have a bond that was passed years ago that goes into, it was supposed to build a rec center. So talk to me about your thoughts on recreation and making these places to play in the city.
One of the things that Midlothian prides itself on is family. We are a family oriented community. With family comes the challenges of a mother and a father who potentially don't work from home and have children that are getting out of school and they need a place to go. With that, I would say that the rec center, a YMCA, a Boys and Girls Club, something where kids could go after school and have a safe place where they can do homework, have mentors there, in addition to their own parents. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that the parents aren't the mentors, but have somebody there that's like that surrogate that could help them in things that they need, such as school, academics, different things like that. So I'm for the recreation center, absolutely, because I do believe that kids need structure. I think kids should be left to wander all by themselves after school because that could create a whole nother policing issue that we don't even want to get into. But for the after school programs for children. And again, we're living in a society where you have the mother and the father in the home, or sometimes even just a mother, or sometimes even just a father. They may need that extra help after school when they're still out working. So I am for that. The other part of the question, I'm sorry, DB, you had mentioned the community park. I do think that parks are needed. However, I do realize that we live in a society where not many people are going outside anymore. Like when we were younger, we went outside and played from 9 a.m. to the street lights came on. And you were running home to try to beat the street lights coming home. That's reality. These kids are not outside like we were unless they're at the park playing sports and activities or things like that. But I don't see too many kids at the parks playing like we did. We went to the park from sunup to sundown. We swam in the local pools. I just don't see that anymore. They're inside playing whatever the new game is. They're like this and they're on their cell phones and they look down. We live in a different generation. That's the reality. When I was a kid, we had Street Kings, the metal. I don't know how old you are. We had the metal wheels. You're laughing, and the sparks would be flying up out the wheels, like on the Street Kings and things like that. We had big wheels. We had green machines. We got hurt. We were told if you come back in this house one more time, you'll stay in all day. So we were like, okay, we don't want to come in the house. Even though, so we would drink from the neighbor's water hose and things like that because we didn't want to come in the house. We literally went outside and that's all we did. We got hurt. We were our own doctors. We like found sap off trees and just put it on the wound and took your shirt and wrapped your elbow up or whatever because you didn't
Yeah.
want to back in.
I didn't want to, you definitely didn't want your parent taking you to the doctor. So you had to figure that out because on top of the pain of the owie, it's having to deal with the mom coming at you or something like that. It was such a different time in the way that people interacted. Now they are on their phones more, and that kind of keeps them up. One of the things that are important when trying to get things done for the city is relationships. What will you do to foster good relationships with the other six that maybe, if you're elected, the other six that are on the council, so that you can be a more effective councilwoman?
The Bible tells us with all you're getting, get an understanding. And I realize that a lot of times miscommunication comes when somebody does not understand. If you don't understand what somebody says, an email is not always the best way to communicate because it can be misconstrued. Have a phone call, have a conversation. You have got to, in this life, collaborate with people. I'm a firm believer of that. You need people to get things done. And if there's something that is misunderstood or somebody doesn't understand something, ask the clarifying questions. It's all about collaboration and communicating effectively with everyone.
I could have you on all day, Ms. Valencia, but unfortunately, we're coming close to the end. So I wanted you to go ahead and just address the people of Midlothian. Early voting is starting here soon, I believe on the 20 something.
If you are an able bodied person, please go out and vote. Make your vote matter. And the only way that can be done is you have to go out there and cast your votes. Midlothian, I love you. I am praying for you, most importantly, and we will see you at the polls.
And those are very long days for the candidates. I normally tend to pop in, but are you ready for those long days?
Yeah. So if you guys up there and I have bags under my eyes and I don't have the makeup on and I look like a raccoon and you see me in my baseball hat, please forgive me. It's been a very long few months, but just come up and speak. Say hi, shake my hand. I'm not a person that's going to bite your ear off or your head off or anything like that. I'm very friendly. I'm very approachable. I would love for you to just come up and say hello. How are you doing?
I can attest to that. Very approachable, good person. I'm glad I met you. I've gotten to know all these people, and I'm very grateful for every time this cycle comes with meeting good people. Community.
Thank you again, DB, for having me on here. It's a pleasure.